Let's start with a clean kitchen. Let's make sure that the hot water is going, that we have a good sink full of hot soapy water, and I prefer Dawn dishwashing liquid. So we're putting our Dawn in, putting the few dirty dishes that we have, and let's keep our kitchen clean as we cook. So that's what I'm doing. I'm adding the dishes in so that I can get everything washed up as we go. Use it, wash it, use it, wash it. And by the time you finish, guess what? It's clean. Your kitchen is clean. So let's work on that tomato salad. This is a Mediterranean tomato salad. So we are going to, and in fact what I'm doing at this point is just using a microplane, and I'm zesting the lemon. So I'm taking all of the peel off of the lemon, taking all of its outer surface, and you'll see how it just builds up inside of that microplane. That's one of those devices that's a must-have, because it certainly saves you from trying to scrape this with a knife. Almost impossible, to be honest with you. So we're going to scrape one whole lemon, and we're going to put the zest into a bowl once we're finished. Now, I'm being very careful not to get any of the pith, because that's very bitter. We just want the lemon zest and the oils from that lemon. And then I'm going to cut it in half, because we're going to need to use this once we make our dressing. And the dressing is going to be absolutely delicious. Now, I have 2 regular cucumbers. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to use my vegetable peeler, and I'm going to peel the cucumbers. I'm placing a paper towel down underneath because we want to keep things clean, and we want to make sure that when this is all over with, that everything is right there on the paper towel. So there we go, we're peeling, and I like to leave just a tiny bit of the peel on, but of course it's clean. I've cleaned it. In fact, I've put a little Dawn on it and rinsed it off well. So there's the first cucumber, and we're going to take the ends off of the second one. You know, I thought at first that I would only use half of this cucumber, but I decided to go ahead and not waste it and throw both cucumbers into the bowl. So we're going to keep the pieces of cucumber equal with the pieces of tomato. So see how quick this cleans up. There we go. Only hit one on the floor. So we're going to fold that up and throw it into the trash. I love being able to do it quickly. So what do we need at this point? A knife. Oh, we needed a bowl. I thought it was the knife. There we go. Now, we're going to slice this down the center lengthwise. We're going to roll it, and we're going to slice it again down the center. And then just cut into about 1/4-inch pieces the cucumber. So you end up with 4 pieces with every slice. So that moves along very quickly without the peel. And let's put them all into the Rubbermaid container. Great, there's the first one. And let's work on that second. Now that the cucumbers are sliced and diced, let's continue. We've got our Campari tomatoes that have been washed well, and we're going to need a bowl to put this salad into. I mixed the dressing with olive oil and lemon juice, some salt and some pepper, and it's ready to go as well. So I'm going to put the tomatoes and cucumbers off to the side for just a moment, and we're going to work on something else. Are you ready? Well, let's do it. Let's do it. Notice I only used half a lemon. So I'm just cleaning things up and getting them ready for the next part, because we need to get those tomatoes ready for the oven. My hubby is like a bee to honey when it comes to tomatoes. He absolutely loves tomatoes. So while I was in the process of getting those tomatoes ready, I thought, well, first, after I got everything cleaned up, I'm going to pour the tomatoes and kind of mix them up, put the tomatoes and the cucumbers into a bowl that I can put in the refrigerator while the oven roasted tomatoes are being prepared. So for tonight's dinner, we're having the salad, we're having the oven roasted tomatoes with pasta and salmon. So it's going to be a great dinner once it's all complete. And I'm going to take you from start to finish so you can see everything that's going to go into this. I had a few more cucumbers that I needed, but I already know that hubby will take care of that. So I'm taking the dressing, kind of giving it a little taste to see what else it needs, and it seems like it needed just a little bit of salt. So I'm adding a little bit of salt, and just to make sure that we have a real good flavor. So let's stir that up real quick, and I'm going to pour it over the vegetables. So let's drizzle that. There we go. Get everything out. Everybody out of the pool. You don't want to leave any of that goodness in that bowl. And into the sink it goes. All right. Now we need to, we're going to need some parsley. And I'm going to chop up a little bit of parsley, just a little, to spread through the salad. Going to give it that fresh green taste. Just picked up a pinch or so of parsley and chop it up pretty finely, please, if you don't want huge leaves of parsley. So I'm going to sit those off because eventually I'll roll them in some paper towel and put them into the refrigerator to store. But I'm rinsing them off with some cool water just to make sure if there's any dust or whatever on it that's taken care of. So here we go, we're ready. And let's get that parsley chopped. Parsley smells good, and you think it doesn't really have a lot, and it's usually the little green thing that you see on the side of your plate, and it's there for decoration. But parsley is an herb, and we certainly want to make sure that our parsley is a very vibrant part of our salad. So let's chop, chop, chop. Now I'm not going to put the stems in, so I'm just going to chop until I get to a reasonable point, close to the stems but without the stems. Get most of the leaves, and then in they go. Now, I probably should have gotten a little larger bowl, but I didn't. So I've got to get a spoon and stir him up. So I'm going to be very careful as I'm doing this because I want the dressing to go through. Look at how pretty that is. Ah, the greens, the reds, the white. And as you move it, you can smell the lemon that's permeating from this salad. It's going to be so good. And I can tell you, I went back and added a little more lemon juice. And before I served it, it was delicious. So let's get everything cleaned up. We're going to put a piece of plastic wrap on it. And plastic wrap is not my friend. I can always get it on, but you know what? Sometimes it is a bear to get off. And where do you want it to go? Look at how it just crinkles up. It drives me nuts. So there we go. We got our plastic wrap on. That's going to go into the refrigerator. And one more cleanup. There we go. You're going to see off to the right that I have my pan that's going to be going into the oven. And the oven I set at 400 because I wanted it very nice and hot. And I'm using this time, instead of Campari tomatoes, I'm using Romas. The Romas are usually pretty reasonable in price, and I purchased about 4 pounds of Roma tomatoes. So you're going to see I'm just slicing them in half, putting them out on the pan, and actually this pan is going to be enough for one pasta dish when it's all over. There we go. Now we could have turned it over the other way, but I'm not blending it, so I'm actually going to use them the way that they are once the roasting process is over. So there's our tomatoes, placing them into the pan. Then I'm going to give them all a good seasoning. That didn't take long, and some of these had rather large ends that needed to come off, or some that just didn't look very nice, so I took those off. Now you know tomatoes need salt, pepper. I could have added some garlic powder, but I didn't. Nor did I add onion powder, mainly because I didn't want it to burn. But I'm just making sure I have plenty in the pan, getting as many in there as I possibly can. The more tomatoes, the better. Okay, I'm squeezing that last one in. There we go. And you see I had a few that were left over. That's okay, because hubby is hovering, and he will probably eat them up before dinner time. Okay, so there's our pan, and I'm going to sprinkle on some house seasoning. And you know, house seasoning has a variety, but I'm not using a lot of it. I want just a light sprinkling. Just like I said, sometimes it will burn just a little bit. So because of that, I'm being very careful about how much of the seasoning that I place on these tomatoes. Okay, I needed, let's see. Let me get some salt. Woo. And I'm just going to give it a sprinkle, because my house seasoning didn't have a lot of salt in it. Closing up that house seasoning so it'll stay fresh. And I'm using my sun cocoa oil, and that sunflower and coconut mix that I use, and I'm just kind of drizzling some of the oil over the tomatoes. Each tomato should have some oil. There we go. And now these tomatoes are ready to go into the oven. And let's keep in mind 400-degree oven. We're going to put them in, you're going to want them to stay in probably anywhere from 45 minutes and more, until it gets very well cooked. Now, let's talk about the dish that we have at this point. In my pan, I have cooked pasta, and I am adding now, I just added in some of the pasta liquid. I threw in the oven roasted tomatoes and juices, and I'm taking that and I am just tossing it together. You saw me add in some cheese. I added some Parmesan cheese, and I'm keeping the heat at a medium because you know Parmesan cheese will stick very quickly. And I'm just going to cover it up for a little while, make sure it gets really good and hot, and our dinner is going to be ready. Now over here in this skillet I have olive oil and 2 pats of butter, and I'm letting them come up to temperature while the pasta stays warm, adding in some onions, and I am going to let that grill, let that cook and let that sizzle, and I want just a little bit of color to them. So I'm keeping that on a pretty, let's see, medium-high temperature. I'm going to add in some house seasoning because after all, onions do not come seasoned. So I'm going to sprinkle, sprinkle, sprinkle. And keep those onions moving. Now initially, these onions are just going to be translucent, but by the time they come out and they're with the salmon, then you're going to see that they will have, their little ends will be golden. That's what we want. So there we go. We got it, and it's cooking very well, and it's just starting to brown. And I want the bottom of that skillet sizzling because when I place my 2 pieces of salmon in, I'm going to do it skin side down. Skin side down. Now what I've done on top is that I've added Italian seasonings, Italian herbs. So I'm putting in the 2 pieces of salmon, and if your family's larger, then certainly you can add more. But I want my skin on the salmon to be very crispy, and by the time the skin is crispy, your salmon will be just about ready. Now I put on 2 pats of butter, and I'm sprinkling on those pieces of onion, making sure it stays around it. And you know our oven's hot, right? Okay. So watch what I do. I'm going to let this sizzle for just a few moments until I get that skin nice and crispy. See, I'm adding in just a touch of Parmesan. And the reason for that is because I've got Parmesan over in the pasta, so I'm adding in a little Parmesan onto the salmon. Typically, you don't usually have cheese and fish, but I like a little bit, especially if I'm going to serve it over pasta. So that's what I'm doing. I just put just a little bit there, and we're going to let that skin cook. Now, let me tell you a little bit about it so that you'll know when it's ready. You are going to find, that's house seasoning that I'm sprinkling. You're going to find that this is going to stick to the bottom of this skillet. But once it's crispy, you'll be able to pick it up very easily, and the skin will not stick and will be nice and crispy. So that's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for it to be well cooked and well easily removed underneath. So I'm adding in my I'm going to get ready to take all of this. You see, I'm putting the onions on the salmon, and I'm going to use my tool and just see if it's ready to lift. It needed just a little bit of help. That one's not quite ready. He's not ready yet. So we're going to wait just a minute or 2 more. Now you notice that it's still very pink. Very pink. So let's give it a moment. And, oh, there we go. There we go. I'm going to take it and we're going to move it around. Oh, this salmon came out so nice and flaky. There we go. All right, that's what we want. That's what we want. So I'm going to put this under the broiler and let the rest of the salmon cook. So that's what I'm doing. I'm turning the broiler on. There we go. And I am going to put it in for about 6 to 7 minutes. So here it is. It's out. And that took only 7 minutes. And you'll see it's nice and brown. The onions are nice and brown. Let's serve up this dinner for tonight because it is going to be absolutely delicious. So I am going to, we're looking at the pasta and it's bubbling and hot and ready to go. We're going to add the pasta to the plate, then add the salmon there, and then we're going to add a little bit of bread to go with it. Yummy, yummy.